Hi, and welcome to the Digital Freedom Coach podcast with me, Eric Olson. Here, we go in depth and talk about how you can use digital tools to create more freedom in your life. Are you, as me, curious about how you can work remotely, how you can build a business online, and what it actually takes to create the life of your dreams? Then this is the podcast for you. For more info on what we do, check out thedigitalfreedomcoach.com. So welcome to a new episode of the Digital Freedom Coach podcast. And today I want to share a very powerful insight, something I believe most people haven't realized, haven't really thought about, and are constantly surrounded by. Right? So it's something we face basically every day. And I've been into personal growth and personal development for years. In 2015, I began more seriously to take it into, becoming a part of my life. I took a course in Sweden about getting more energy and time and better finances. And back then, I did lots of reading. I wanted to understand myself more. I wanted to gain even more insights. I wanted to take another sort of trajectory in life, right? So I had certain circumstances. I lived in another city. I had another job. I knew different people. And I had another sort of relationships. And I realized I kind of wanted to change that. I was on this path, which it wasn't a bad path. It wasn't a bad path. I was, in a sense, quite content. It was an okay life. I don't have those kind of very super dramatic experiences happening in my life. Sure, I had a few of them, but not these kind of major life blasts or something, where you've hit something and then you just take another trajectory in life and in order to survive, and you hear all of those stories, the drama. Right? I maybe I had something similar. I shared that in previous podcasts as well, but I don't think I've had any sort of, for me, like a life-threatening situation. That's something that hit me personally that made me, switch my path in life. I don't think so, in a way. I mean, I had my dad. I think I shared some value and info about what happened to my dad in previous episodes. And I'm sure I will talk more about it in future episodes as well. However, at large, I think my life has been like an okay life. And I think most people have okay lives. And it's not bad to have an okay life. I believe, like most people, they kind of wake up in the morning, they go to work, they do what they have to do, they live their 9-to-5 job, maybe they have a good relationship, an okay relationship, maybe they have a family and kids, and it's Friday and they watch television together with the family, and spend time with the kids and so on. And then it's Saturday and maybe some fitness and exercise, maybe they go on a small hike. Or they go with the family on a small, weekend trip somewhere, right? And then you do those things, and then it's holiday season, and maybe you take a flight to Spain if it's not Corona, and you spend 2 weeks in Spain. You go to the beach, you eat, nice food at the restaurant, you have a beer or 5, you have some good wine, and then you come home, and then if everything is kind of repeating itself again, you work for 40 plus weeks a year, and then you go on a few weeks of vacation, and you long for Fridays. Yeah, you know it. You know what I'm aiming for here. Like most people have that life, I think. Like it's an okay life, and there are challenges and struggles and so on and so on. And I've lived that life, and it's an okay life. But if you kind of want to change that, if you want to make an impact, if you want to aim for something different, then you have to switch your mindset. I've been sharing this, of course, in basically all podcast episodes here, the Digital Freedom Coach podcast. But there is something I haven't shared yet. And it's about how your current circumstances are a result of all the previous actions you have undertaken until you get to your current circumstance. Did you hear what I just said? Did you get it? That is what I want to share with you today, because this is very powerful. Okay, so the thing is, we have a local newspaper here where I live. It's for the city. We have international news and so on, but it's kind of a small paper, right? And you know, I read it not every single day, but I kind of glance through it quite often, regularly. And I open the newspaper and I see some of the articles, and we have people writing short articles and they send it in. I think they do this in most papers around the world, right? So, you know, my dear listener, if you have like a newspaper where you live, open it up, take a look, glance it through, and I'm sure you will have like these short notes or articles people send in. So what's the thing then? The thing is, when you read those, I don't know, but it's mostly about complaining about something, isn't it? It's like about complaining the politicians took a bad decision. Media is wrong. The state of world affairs is going the wrong way. Lots of people are having lots of opinions about things all over the place, right? Most often it's about things they can't influence or impact or have a say about. Basically, if you have this perspective, it's like a channel to ventilate, right? You are frustrated about something, you write a short article and you send it into newspapers. You can ventilate and complain about something, maybe even complain about the weather. Like, I live in Sweden, we are pretty good at complaining about the weather, right? And you kind of make up these excuses in order to not be in charge of your own life. Bam! You heard that? In order to not take charge of your own life. So what do I mean by that? The insight, if you go back to the insight I got, the insight being that everything I am surrounded by in my life is a result of all the previous action steps I have taken that has led me up to this specific point in time. Okay, so what does that mean actually? Well, if you think about it, say you have a regular job and you work at this place and you complain about your boss. You know, many people complain about the bosses, right? Okay, so what sort of action steps has led you to be at that place complaining about your boss? Most likely it is at some point in time you saw an ad somewhere, you applied for a job, you started that job, and I don't know, maybe that is in journalism or something. So you studied journalism before at the university and you did that for years in order to become a journalist. And then you found this ad, you found this job, you ended up at this workplace, you did, your tasks, your assignments, you did what was expected of you, and you had this boss, and it's not going the way you want because that boss is saying this and that, and, complaining about your results, perhaps your inactivity, I don't know. What I'm saying is that is your responsibility. That is your responsibility, because you see, all of those small action steps you have taken has led you to be in that specific circumstance. And how you react or not react towards your boss and the comments from your boss is totally up to you. That is your responsibility. You can interpret it in a good way, in a positive way, a force for change, personal growth. You can make an impact. You can do something differently, or you can complain, you can blame other people, you can blame your boss for being the way your boss is. You see how that is a different path to take? You see how every little step you take creates your reality. So say you are in a relationship you don't like, you don't enjoy it, and what has led up to that relationship? Well, probably, I don't know, maybe you're on Tinder or something and you do the Tinder thing and you meet someone, you go on a date, another date, you end up being together, you get married, I don't know, you have children, you have a family, but, 5 years ago, you started to get tired of each other, right? And you're not working on that relationship, So it starts to deteriorate, and instead of working, putting in the effort, the time, your resources to actually build it up, you disregard it, you do other things, you hang out with friends, and you don't put energy and time into the relationship, and you have a certain result. You see how all of the steps you had previously taken has led you up to your current circumstance. Let's say, what about your finances? Maybe, that is a very simple way to look at it, right? And I'm all about simplicity. So say you don't have a good cash flow at this stage. Say you are kind of bankrupt. Say you lack funds, right? Okay, so why is that? Okay, so if you go back in time, maybe we go back 10 years in time, and we look, into, okay, so when you got the paycheck 10 years ago, what did you do with those funds? Did you, like, the first thing you did was to pay all the bills, like the rent and the car and all of those things, and then buy food and everything, and then maybe go out and hanging out with friends, going to restaurants and pubs, having a few pints, travel, spend all the money, and then at the end of your month, maybe you had 0 on your bank account and you have nothing to spare, okay? Like nothing to save, nothing to invest, and most people do that, and then next month is the same thing, next month is the same thing, next month is the same thing. You see how that is a repetition. And then, let's jump into the time machine and go, 10 years into the future, okay? Like until today. We end up in today's world, okay? And then you have nothing, and maybe you lost your job. Bam, okay? So now you're in debt, you have no cash, you haven't done anything, you have no investments. Is that your fault? Maybe that's a strong word. Maybe fault, maybe that's not the word. Maybe I'm looking for, is that your responsibility? So my dear listener, maybe you can relate to that, Is that your responsibility? I believe so, because if you would have taken the time to invest into learning something about money, cash flows, and how that works, the thing to do would actually, when you got your paycheck, you would invest first. You would pay yourself first, and then the bills, and then food, and then going out, and then whatever. Number one, pay yourself first, because then 10 years ago, you would have started to create your future self, your future circumstances. Okay, you see how that works. And then, but you didn't. So now today you're kind of bankrupt. You have no money, you have no funds, you're in debt. So what do? You think it's someone else's fault, right? You think it's your boss' fault. It's because you got fired. Maybe you think it's the state's fault because you pay tax. You pay tax, man. So you should get something back. So you're kind of sitting here and you don't get anything because there was some misunderstanding of something, or you get some cash, but it's not enough. So it's the politician's fault. It's the state's fault. It's the politician's fault, man. And you get frustrated and you get angry and you write a short article and you send it to the newspaper blaming someone else except you, because you're not to blame. You're like an innocent little lamb living in the sun somewhere, grazing. I don't know. I want to advocate, I want to state that it is your responsibility. Everything you do in your life is your responsibility. It cannot be anyone else's responsibility. It's another thing to are you working alone, or are you working in a team? I mean, check out episode 17 where I actually talk about this. You can actually work together in a team with other people to achieve certain results and certain goals, but that is something different. If you do everything by yourself and you're not planning for the future, you take no responsibility in your goals, in attaining your goals and creating the future you want, you will end up in a situation which is not very favorable, and that will take away your own power, that will take away your own influence. You will become less empowered by not doing so, by giving away your responsibility by blaming others, by blaming politicians, media, influencers, commercials, I don't know, marketing, family, friends, the weather, you know, another planet, March, like whatever. If you do that, if you blame others, you are effectively taking away your own power, your own influence, and that gives way to something different. That gives way to emotions such as frustration, irritation, anger, exhaustion, depression, grief, negative emotions. You become inactive. It is someone else. So what does it matter what we do? We become inactive. We don't do anything, right? That is the price you pay in order to give away your responsibility and give that responsibility to someone else. And maybe in this case, it's, you know, the easiest scenario to set up is to give away responsibility to politicians, because they are supposed to solve everything from the climate crisis to your job opportunities. So it's a mental shift, you know, it's a mental shift. Like, in all honesty, it's a mental shift. So what you have to do, my dear listener, I know you're powerful, I know you're bold, I know you're courageous. What you have to do is to take back that influence. Okay, that is what you have to do. You have to take back that sense of empowerment. You have to become empowered again. You have to make that mental shift. You have to take the responsibility back, and that can be a tough thing to do, because if you take back that responsibility, you become responsible for everything, right? Oh my, you know, like your relationships, your career, your cash flows, your finances, everything you become responsible for, and that can be kind of challenging thing to do, because if it's not going so well, you are the one to blame. My dear listener, you are the one to blame. And that is tough to hear. I know that. That can be tough to hear. But there is something positive here, right? There is something good going. Okay, we have something which is really good. Okay. If we become responsible for all the circumstances surrounding us, we become empowered. And if we become empowered, that is a path to more joy, happiness, better finances, satisfaction. Satisfaction, that is a powerful thing. Satisfaction from understanding that we are able to achieve and attain our goals and accomplish our goals. We will look at life from a more positive angle. Instead of frustration, irritation, and all of those things, we become empowered. We can take action, and we can achieve and strive to achieve our goals. Okay, and that is like on the sun. It's the sunnier side of life. Okay, and that is where most of us wants to live, at least if we have goals in life. And feel free to listen to episode 4 as well, because in episode 4 of the Digital Freedom Coach podcast, I talk about fear, and it's often fear that is keeping us from attaining and achieving our goals. Okay, so there are always reasons why we're not doing something, and that is often fear. So what I want you to do, my dear listener, you are powerful, is to take inventory of your life. Like, where are you at this stage? My dear listener, be powerful, be bold, aim high. Where are you in life at this stage? And it can be finances, relationships, health, personal growth, work, business, and all of those areas, right? Take inventory. Where are you? What is happening? What's the feeling? What's the emotion you get? What are your results? What are the numbers? I'm a numbers guy. What are the numbers? Have you achieved what you want to achieve? What do you want to complain about? Are you taking responsibility of those results in those areas, or is it someone else's fault that has happened in those areas? There is only one way to move forward, and it is to take responsibility of the results you have achieved in those areas. There is no other way. Okay? And for me, this has basically created an understanding and a belief. If I want to achieve a certain goal, I won't have to work for it. I have to work for it. There are no shortcuts. I share this in the podcast several times, that there are indeed easier ways. Like, you can work with other people, like I shared, like episode 17. You can work with other people, but there are essentially no shortcuts. You can't kind of find this scheme, this kind of wonderful solution, and then next day everything is solved. Right? If you want to achieve something, you have to work for it. You have to put in the action, the effort, the resources, your mental energy, your brain power. You have to work for it and work for it and work for it. That's how you achieve a result. And you cannot complain. You can ventilate. Maybe you have to do that sometimes. You will face challenges, but you can't blame anyone else. You cannot, I repeat, you cannot blame someone else for the circumstances in your life. Take charge of your life, okay? Take charge of your life. And that is all I want to share in this podcast. I hope you found some value. Aim high, be bold, be courageous, don't blame other people, take responsibility, take full responsibility of your own life. Aim high and create the life you dream of. That's it for now. Take care, talk soon, bye bye.